Hi, and welcome everyone live here in the Lessonface studio in Manhattan, New York, and online all over the US and the world. My name is Flavio Lira, and I'm the producer and director of operations at Lessonface. I'm here to introduce the second episode of Face the Music, an artist interview series that we're super excited about and are looking to continue for many years to come. So get ready. In Face the Music, accomplished artists and music educators are invited to share their views on inspiration, motivation, and techniques that enable a musician or music student to continuously improve in their craft and their passion. Before passing it to our stellar guest and our great interviewer, I'd like to talk a bit about Lessonface. We are an online music school where great teachers and students can connect for live online music lessons. If you're interested in learning any instrument or to sing, you can do it from your home and be assured that you're meeting with a qualified instructor that has passed our high standards approval process. And if you are a music teacher, we'd love to hear from you and welcome you to meet our platform and all the features we offer to your teaching studio. So, let's get started with Face the Music. I'd like to introduce our interviewer, Lessonface teacher and the guitarist for the amazing band 6 Feet Under, Ray Suhy. And our guest, the guitarist for the legendary thrash metal band Testament and the leader of the Alex Skolnick trio, the great Alex Skolnick. After you, Ray.
All right, thank you, Flavio. Alex, thanks for joining us here at
Great, man. Great to be here.
Nice to meet you, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Right in the neighborhood.
Yeah, excellent, man.
You're in New York.
Yeah, big fan of your playing for a long time, man.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, I was a teenager growing up, obsessed with thrash metal. Testament was one of those bands. Your playing like stuck out immediately back then. You know, you were very young, right, when the band took off.
Yeah, I joined Testament when I was 16 years old.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So my whole junior year in high school,
Wow.
basically,
Wow.
was I was doing my first gigs, and we got a record deal, and by the time I graduated, we were scheduled to record our first album.
I did the Legacy then, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of my friends were going off to UC Berkeley, and
Yeah.
I was out in upstate New York recording a heavy metal record.
That's amazing to me because you had so much facility back then already. So can we go back and talk about how you got there so young?
Sure, sure.
When did you start playing guitar?
So I started when I was 10,
10 years old. Okay.
and the time I started, there was a big renaissance with like 50s music.
Oh, okay.
Right, the 50s were popular.
Mm-hmm.
There was a movie that came out that year called American Hot Wax, and it starred Jay Leno in probably his only movie role. But what stood out for me is it starred these great 50s artists,
Cool.
including Jerry Lee Lewis, Screamin' Jay Hawkins,
Excellent.
and the one that really did it for me, Chuck Berry.
Chuck Berry, right? Amazing, right?
So I saw that movie, and I discovered Kiss around the same time.
Nice.
I remember there was a commercial for a Kiss concert, and a kid at my school had Kiss baseball cards.
Amazing.
Yeah, and so I started enjoying Kiss and 50s rock, and it was really that music that sort of did it for me, and just learning, Chuck Berry and Ace Frehley.
Nice.
But from there, that led to Jimi Hendrix. Growing up in Berkeley, California, it's
Right.
everybody still listen to Cream and Hendrix, which is great.
Yeah.
I mean, great guitar playing, but it has this, the whole 60s culture is still very strong in Berkeley.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And then in high school, then I discovered Ozzy and Van Halen, and it was just sort of a natural progression.
Did you have teachers from that young age at 10 when you started?
I did.
Yeah.
So my first teacher was a folk artist.
Okay.
He actually became a really successful children's artist named Gary LaPoe.
Okay, cool.
And he was a great teacher.
Nice.
But he really kind of got me learning songs and really got me started on the basics.
Gotcha.
And I just think it was really crucial to start with somebody like that. that.
Yeah, nice. Learn
for
all
me.
the open chords and your bar chords and things like that.
Yeah, and he just, he related everything to like the blues, for example.
Nice.
Like, he showed me basic blues progressions, and I started getting into real blues back then
Nice.
too.
Oh, excellent.
Just the 12-bar blues and how that relates to some of the hard rock tunes that I was listening to, like AC/DC, the Jack, and,
Yeah.
Midnight Rambler by the Rolling Stones. And, you hear that in so many places. So yeah, he made it cool,
That's
to
cool. That's excellent.
learn this basic stuff. And once I got into lead guitar playing, I studied with a couple other local players, and then I was advancing pretty quick, and I found out the guy that had taught most of the local players that I was studying with was a guy named Joe from the East Coast, and he was like, because they're this very serious musician, you're not sure you're going to want to study with him because he's going to make you practice.
Well, yeah, that reputation.
And that would be Joe Satriani.
Yeah, fantastic. That's great. Wow. And how old were you when you started?
At that point, I was 14 or 15.
14 or 15.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What do you remember back then that Satriani stressed to you as far as what you were working on?
Well, he definitely made it. He emphasized learning music theory, but with him you could hear why you should learn it. 'Cause I was kind of resistant to it. I always thought, okay, the guys that I really dig, these old blues players, Chuck Berry and everything, Ace Frehley. I don't think any of these guys know that stuff. And while I was with Joe, I think a lot of it was over my head. I did have, there were people I knew who could just absorb that stuff really quick.
Yeah.
But hearing Joe and hearing what he was doing, I think it planted the seeds. It's like, okay, even whether it takes me like, a year or 2 years, even as it turned out to be after I studied with Joe, I really started to sort of connect the dots.
Dig in.
Literally connect the dots. The dots on paper.
Right. Yeah.
But just hearing him make use of that.
Yeah.
And because he knows this stuff. I mean, and he's playing by ear too. I think he's not. Like any advanced player, he's not thinking of every mode while he's playing, but he's absorbed it all.
Right.
It's coming out. And it's got this great feel.
Yeah.
So hearing Joe, I realized, okay, you can have a great feel for the guitar and still be an ear player, but also have this knowledge of music.
Nice, excellent. How about technically? What did he give you on the guitar technically as far as exercises and things? Do you remember?
I think more of the technical stuff was often licks I would bring in. So at the time, Yngwie Malmsteen.
Right,
And Joe stressed to me, right now, he's like the player of the moment. So it's fine to study with him, but just don't try to sound too much like him.
Good, yeah, cool.
And it's funny because in a couple of years, Joe Satriani would be the player of the moment.
Yeah.
That it was before that. But so I learned these licks, and he would just he would give me guidance on how to improve the licks. He would call me out if my pitch wasn't right in a bend, which is really important.
Oh yeah.
And just I do remember these patterns, and they were great for they were great exercises. But later on, they were like modal patterns. Later on, I would figure out kind of how to use them musically. Nice. But just as exercises, they were really good.
Do you remember what they were? One thing that strikes me about your playing, especially in the early Testament stuff, is you have a bunch of vocabulary in the metal style. First of all, your bending and vibrato and your blues phrasing is evident, like right away. Like you're one of the few guys back then that has really nice vibrato and sort of blues feel, and then that's combined with all these kind of scale patterns. Like I hear a lot of like kind of descending 3s and 4s, kind of single string kind of stuff. Did you work on that quite a bit back then?
I did. I mean, I think at that time, a lot of the sort of, it was called speed metal initially. And now there's just so many genres
Yeah.
of heavy metal. But at the time, it was pretty odd to play that way in a heavy band. Most of the real melodic players ended up in glam bands.
Right.
And you had these great players in glam bands like George Lynch, and Dokken, Warren DeMartini.
Yeah, fantastic.
And I mean, so many great players. And there were some really good guys who were emulating that in the Bay Area. But the Bay Area really wasn't a place for that scene. And I did not want to wear like tight spandex.
Right. Yeah.
Have the big hair. And also, I just musically, I liked the energy of the heavy stuff.
Yeah.
But to me, the lead guitar always sounded, it was more punk rock.
Right.
Which was, it was great. It works really well.
Yeah.
But the way I like to play lead guitar, I really liked those guys. I was into Lynch and DeMartini, but also the main guys, Randy Rhoads, that first Van Halen record.
Oh yeah.
The first Dio record, Vivian Campbell's playing on that.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
It's phenomenal. So I wanted to insert Michael Schenker, I should mention, Uli Roth. Like I'm thinking of all these guys I was listening to back then. I wanted to put that in that music. And it was kind of weird.
Yeah, it is.
I was a weirdo.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It actually ended up being kind of, now, if with heavy music, there's a lot of great guitar playing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, Megadeth would go on to have like Marty Friedman, and now Kiko Loureiro, and pretty much everybody they've had since that has been a really good player. But even newer bands like the Black Dahlia Murder, there's great solos on there.
Yes.
Children of Bodom, Alexei certainly knows his way around an instrument.
Definitely. For me, you certainly paved the way of a guy combining the influences within the leads back then.
Yeah, and so now I can name all these people, but at the time, I was like a
as a kid,
a
kid growing up in Maine watching Headbangers Ball, like streams of these thrash bands would go on, and then Testament would come up and you'd start ripping a solo, and I'd be like,
cool.
I could hear the classic rock, I could hear the blues, and then I can hear all the shred things that I love so much.
Thanks.
Yeah. Can you talk about anything that was difficult for you back then on the guitar? Like, do you remember like technically like sweeps or like alternate picking or those kind of fast scale runs? Did that come kind of naturally to you, or did you really have to work at it?
I think I really had to work on it. Well, okay, to give an example.
Yeah.
I'm using this is the school guitar here.
Yes.
So like you mentioned sweep picking.
Yeah.
So I finally figured out how to sweep pick once I was able to just do the right hand and be able to create that bubble sound on the right hand.
Nice. Yes.
Right, rhythmically.
Right.
Right, so you have to be able to do that. Right. Right, before you can do something like right.
Yeah, which is excellent. Yeah.
So but at first I think that lick that I just played.
The one was one of the first that you learned, or?
Well, that's from Trial by Fire.
Oh, that's right.
That's one of mine. But I wrote that once I kind of figured out that kind of bubbly sound.
Nice, excellent. It's a good one. Yeah, and you're really good at articulating all the notes in the sweep. Sometimes you see people sweeping and they're kind of missing the notes in the middle. But, like,
and I would
clear
practice that with like a minor, major.
Nice.
But I figured out how to do it. I realized it was always
that first.
The right hand had to be able to do it first.
Right. Nice. And
you expand it, you get into other octaves and stuff like that.
And what I liked about those early solos too, you would do a sweep, but it wasn't like just for the point of doing a sweep. You would go into a phrase after. You would play a melody, You know, like in some of those solos, you would sweep up and then go into a little phrase. You know.
Yeah, I still
Yeah.
try to do that.
Yeah, it's very nice.
You know, say my melody line is going to be maybe.
Yeah.
I can spice that up with a little arpeggio, right? That's,
Yeah, nice, excellent. Yeah.
it becomes a little more interesting.
Yeah.
Could even do the same thing, 2 octaves.
Nice. Yeah.
Or
Beautiful.
whatever.
Yeah.
So that was, learning to do that. That was something I focused on.
Nice. What about the alternate picking kind of runs?
Yeah, I was just about to mention that.
Yeah.
So the picking, it's funny because now, in recent years, I think I do a lot more combination playing.
Okay.
So I'll blend picking with hammer-ons and pull-offs.
Okay. Yeah.
But back then, I did do a lot of like straight picking.
Okay.
So I remember, like one example. This is another Testament example.
Yeah. Yes, I love that lick. Yeah.
Right. So to be able to do that,
Yeah.
that's all alternate picking.
Right. Yeah. Nice. Yep.
Now I got that from Al Di Meola.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Nice. Mhm.
So
Fantastic.
he was a huge hero of mine on acoustic as well as electric.
Yeah, he just rips on everything so hard. Did you
Yeah.
practice that stuff with a metronome, or did you just kind of play it?
I did. Yeah, I
okay.
practiced it with a
Yeah,
metronome.
Nice.
I completely ripped off his song. That's just completely honest, right?
Which song? Which song?
Well,
The race?
his was like it was
Yeah, Race of the Devil, right? Yeah.
right. So with the Testament song, it was.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, no, it's not exactly
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it,
yeah.
but it's the same thing. It's
Yeah.
kind of this vamp in F sharp,
Yeah.
where I could
Awesome.
do
Yeah.
this picking thing.
Cool.
Now he had this run on two strings.
Yeah. Nice. Nice.
Right. So that learning that,
Did you learn that by ear?
I learned that by ear.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Back then, and I rarely, I don't actually, I pretty much never use tablature. I often found it more confusing.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So to me, just hearing it was really important.
Nice.
But like that lick, this became a foundation for a lot of picking exercises, for me, right? Because the second part of it,
Yeah.
right, goes up the scale,
Yep.
right here,
Yeah.
right? So that's
Uh-huh.
a five
Yeah,
note
notes.
group.
Yeah. Mhm.
So what
Yeah.
that does, it forces you to switch direction.
Right. You have to start on uppick the second time, right? Of the
Right.
fives.
So let's start on a down.
Yep.
The next time it's got to be up,
Yeah.
down.
Right. Yeah, that's tough. Yep.
So he alternates it with a 4-note run,
Okay.
right?
Nice. Yeah. Excellent.
So I would take that and play. I would expand it. Maybe not just play that that key.
Yeah.
If you look at that modally,
Right.
right, from C sharp.
Yeah.
Right? What if you move down a note?
Nice. Yeah.
If you move up a scale tone,
Yeah.
up another one.
Yeah,
Right.
nice.
So I would use that to learn the modes.
Excellent.
I take just different pieces of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So just learning how to do that
Nice.
helped me come up with
Yeah.
stuff like that.
And you would do that on different strings too, right? A D or G string, you would go up those, the single string stuff, maybe? Or maybe?
Well, in that song, it's just one.
It's just the
string.
one string, right? Yeah. Mhm.
But yeah, another tune that kind of inspired picking exercises was
Nice. Excellent.
right, I'd
Yeah.
take that.
Excellent. Yeah.
And I would do that with other guitar players too. So A slower example would be like Randy Rhoads, right?
Yeah.
This is a Randy Rhoads like.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. I'm playing it slow.
Over the mountain, right?
But that's over the mountain, right?
Yeah.
So if I take the first part of that,
Right.
you notice it's just chord tones.
Yep.
Right?
And
Root,
minors.
third, fifth,
Yep.
seventh.
Minor seventh. Yeah.
Then down the scale
Yep.
and back up. So I might think, okay, what's the relative down a scale tone?
Cool. And this is stuff you learned from Satriani, right? As far as the theory stuff goes. That you
This was a
able to
little
apply?
later. This is
okay.
when I started putting the dots together
Nice.
on
Excellent.
my own. I realized,
Excellent.
oh, you know what? I can take little bits and pieces
Yeah.
of these licks, and then I'm not stuck playing. Because if all I do is learn the lick itself, then I'm dependent on like playing that song
Right. In that key.
and that that exact situation.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take little parts, if you expand upon it
Yeah.
and say, oh, what would it sound like in a different mode? What if I change the timing around?
Nice.
As many variations as possible. Then you really
Yeah, that's
get the
great.
most out of the lick.
That's excellent. That's a really intuitive approach. That's great. One thing, also another thing on the Testament stuff, you had great command of arpeggios, just in general, like Eerie Inhabitants off New Order. That intro, do you remember how that goes? There's a diminished kind of
It's
arpeggio.
diminished arpeggio.
Right. That's killer sequence. Do you know how you laid that out on the fretboard?
Gosh, I don't know if I remember that one.
Yeah. He starts in E.
Yeah.
I'm just curious how you would lay that out. Oh yeah. Oh, so you would go up. Nice. Yeah.
I think that's how he did it.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on it.
Yeah.
There's guys out there that
They probably
my
know
stuff
it.
better than I
Yeah.
do. The thing about the diminished, you move up 3 frets, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I got that from an exercise.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Oh, and then
Nice.
yeah, it's diminished.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yeah. That's very close. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Nice.
I think that's what it is. So it's E minor,
Yep.
then up here.
Nice. Cool. Yeah.
And the reason I did that was I moved down the neck on the same set of strings
Get down lower.
to get back to the starting position.
Cool. Excellent.
And it's funny because that was like an exercise that found its way into a song.
Nice. Yeah.
Kind of like the other thing, kind of like.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
And at the time, I thought this was the diminished scale. Everybody referred to it as the diminished scale. I often bring this up with students. It's not the diminished scale.
No.
It's the diminished arpeggio.
Yeah. Diminished seventh arpeggio. Yeah.
Big
yeah.
difference. Yeah, diminished seventh arpeggio. Exactly.
Yeah.
But it comes from this.
Right.
Yeah, which is that's the diminished scale.
Whole half, right?
And that, from E.
Yeah. Cool.
And it's related to the half whole,
Yeah. Nice.
which creates a lot of interesting jazzy things.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about that. So, again, as a thrash metal kid growing up, and idolizing you guys and all that. All of a sudden, a bunch of you guys started to talk about jazz players. And again, me being a kid in Maine, I was reading guitar magazines, Headbangers Ball, all that stuff. But when I heard that, it inspired me to go seek out some jazz. And through that, I fell in love with John Coltrane and all this, And then I ended up going to college to study
That's
jazz.
great. I hear that story a lot.
Yeah,
it's actually
yeah.
really cool.
For me, it seems like if you're a guitar player, in the rock metal guy, you can either really go like the classical route or kind of the jazz route if you want to kind of study some more intricate, pieces, and harmony and technique and all that.
Yeah, and classical always felt to me, I love it. I
Same.
greatly
yeah.
appreciate it. I like to listen to it. I just never had that bug
Yeah, same.
to
here.
get a classical guitar and learn that it's such a different technique.
Oh yeah.
But I have so much respect for
Yeah.
people that do it. But somehow jazz, I felt like, okay, I can at least get my feet wet
Nice.
with it, and then that the more I did, the deeper I went, and ended up doing a whole like jazz sabbatical.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. To me, as a kid, I mean, you left a successful thrash band, right? I know you played with Sabotage after that for a year, right, or something?
Yeah, about a year, kind of by accident.
Oh yeah, okay. And then
My plan was to just segue into jazz somehow.
That was so brave to me when I was a kid. How did you feel when you did that? Like, did you just have to do it? You know, did anything else?
I did, yeah, I
That's
did.
amazing.
I just thought it felt like this. Just going to drive myself nuts if I don't have a better grasp on this music. I love to play this music. It's not like I don't like the other stuff, but
you had done like how many records with Testament at that point? Maybe
5,
and it was just all ripping. You know,
and I was in my early 20s.
Right.
It was this very strange period of just, you know, I'd been on the road and in the studio pretty nonstop, and at that age, I mean, I think you need to find out who you are outside of that situation.
Right.
And for me, it made perfect sense. I had. I think like the seeds were planted. I knew I was going to end up playing, you know, some form of improvisational music, whether it was more electric jazz, straight ahead jazz, and actually what I ended up doing is sort of a combination.
Yeah.
Because if you see me now, it really goes, there's Wes Montgomery influences, but there's also like 70s jazz funk influences, and there's numerous other things. But at first, it really felt like starting over.
Yeah, right. What was the biggest challenge you think you faced when you went to like play jazz full time after playing metal all those years?
I think the touch.
The touch, yeah, interesting.
Right?
Yeah,
Because your metal, it helps to be relaxed, right? But you can put a lot of energy into it, and get away with it, and it's fine. And with jazz, you can't have that much tension. You have to be, there has to be this fluidity. And there are many jazz courses on sort of like mindfulness and being in the moment. One of the most famous is Kenny Werner, who's an amazing piano player. And he's got this whole method where you get into a meditative state. You know?
Yeah.
And that's so helpful.
Yeah, it was
but learning how to do that was really like the opposite of playing metal.
Yeah, I had the same thing, because I would always be really, I had that kind of angsty kind of, hitting the guitar hard, playing jazz.
Yeah, you hit the guitar hard, you finger hard.
Yeah.
And it's great, for metal. But once you learn to not be dependent on that and play relaxed, you can still get the intense sound.
Right.
It also depends on what gear you're playing and what the musical situation is. But people are shocked now that I can go from like playing the Blue Note in Milan, Italy, to supporting Slayer a month later.
Right.
But I always say, okay, well, the situation is so different. The gear I'm using is different. The songs I'm playing are different. The musicians I'm playing with are different.
How did your practicing change when you went to study jazz?
It became a lot more focused.
Okay.
And I am not the most organized person. Organization is not my strength. It's one of the reasons I went into music. All right, you don't need to be that organized. But you need to get over that to a certain point. So I really started listening to myself more. I used to not. I think nobody really likes to listen to themselves.
Yeah, that's tough.
Even non-musicians, right? If you hear your voice on an answering machine or voicemail, right? You kind of naturally hate the sound of your voice. It's very similar with musicians. So I had to get used to listening. Just facing the fact, okay, that's what you sound like.
So you record yourself improvising? Or
I'd record myself often and really, just listen and think, okay, really make notes about what I needed to work on, And you know, I found there were some things that I would constantly work on and still work on to this day. And then there's other things that, you know, where I would go through phases and I would work on.
Gotcha. Did you seek out teachers when you were making that transition?
I did. I studied with a few different artists in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Nice. And you enrolled at the new school, is that right? Did you?
Yeah, so that was a few years later.
Oh, okay.
So I left Testament in the early 90s, and I was sort of leaning towards instrumental music, and I just started playing with a couple great bass players, Stuart Ham, who I'm still playing with today,
Yeah, nice.
Michael Manring, who I would go on to do a couple recordings with. But I still felt like, and those guys, you know, they're just such deep musicians, both of them. I felt like, okay, I have so much catching up to do. I need to not that I'll never be in a rock band again, you know, but I just need to not do rock and roll for a while.
Right, yeah.
And then the situation with Sabotage happened, and the great guitar player, Chris Oliva, unfortunately passed away.
Right, yeah.
And his brother told me, listen, I know my brother, the only guy I know he'd be happy with playing on this record would be.
Whoa,
I'm like,
yeah, that's
all right, I guess I'm not.
Right.
But, and actually, it was a great experience making the record too. And everything at that point with Testament, most of it had been like, you know, 300 mile an hour, like blistering stuff, which was great.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to record sort of mid-tempo hard rock with Sabotage. Some of it even had piano.
Oh wow, yeah.
So it was a really good experience, and I did a high-profile audition with an artist named Ozzy Osbourne.
Small time, yeah.
Which was like a dream.
Yeah,
and actually played an unannounced show with him.
A gig. Oh wow.
And it seemed to go really well. But I think at the time, also knowing what I know about, you know, the business side of the music business.
Yeah.
At that point, you know, Zakk Wylde had been in the band
That's
a number of years,
Yeah.
and he was, you know, he's got this amazing presence. He's just this big hulking biker-like dude.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they were used to. And I was more like kind of nerdy, more like Randy Rhoads was like my idol. But I think at that point they needed somebody more like that. And then
more loud.
and Zakk ended up back in the band anyway.
Yeah.
But I think that experience really really pushed me to sort of make the move to New York, really dive in and just focus on jazz and instrumental music.
Nice. That's awesome.
Because I figure, okay, as far as guitar, I'm not going to get a bigger call than that.
Right.
I don't want to sit around waiting for some break like that. And even guys I knew who got these big breaks, you know, they maybe do a tour for a while and then they'd be let go. And I just thought, okay, you know what? As long as I'm, you know, if I feel like I'm reaching my full potential as a musician, I can do whatever I want. You know, I can teach, I can play for different artists, you know, whatever. As it would turn out, I'd end up with my own instrumental group.
That's amazing.
Reunite with Stu Ham, play with a lot of different other artists. Find my way back to Testament. So it's funny because now it all kind of makes sense. But I think I needed to go on this. It was a little bit of an odyssey.
That's a brave choice, man. I really admire that. You know, and then you went and you found yourself. You know, and obviously you went down this jazz path, and now you have your trio, right? You just put out a record.
We just put out a record. Ta-da! I happen to have it here.
Nice.
It's called Conundrum.
Conundrum. Yeah. I checked out a bunch of it. It's very varied style-wise, and you're playing great through the whole thing.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Yeah, on this, I feel like I don't really have anything to prove as far as, you know, guy who's known for a metal band playing jazz. It's like, all right, I've done a bunch of records now, and you know, sure, there's jazz guitar on there, but there's also a lot of different stuff. There's country, there's tango, there's funk.
That's what it sounds like to me. It's
Yeah.
that record sounds like you comfortable in your skin doing everything that you love to do.
Yeah, there's so many things
which is
I love to do.
Yeah, excellent, man. How did you prepare for that record?
We started writing this a couple years ago, and music like this, I think you kind of have to do the opposite. That you usually you put out a record, then you tour, and then the tune becomes second nature. Some of these tunes we were playing in the set before recording them. There was a live recording that we did. A couple of the songs were on the live recording. And just, a lot of it, actually before going into the studio, we did like a week-long tour.
Nice.
And played most of the new music. To me, that's just the best way
tighten it up,
to
right?
do it. Yeah, and then you sort of find yourself. The music gets developed.
Nice.
And I think it's a much better way to go about it.
Cool, excellent. And how do you go about switching gears back to Testament? Like, say if you're preparing for a tour, what's your practice regimen like say a week before a Testament tour?
I just start. I start reviewing the songs and the solos and playing with more distortion at home.
Yeah, right. Getting used to that again. Right?
Yeah. But it comes really quickly. I mean, I think when you've been doing it for a long time, it becomes second nature.
Yeah, nice. Cool. It's about time for some audience questions.
Yeah, can you read these okay? Or?
No.
Okay.
Before we do that, I have one quick question
too.
about a lick in the new order. So the end of it, there's like this kind of triplety arpeggio lick. I always loved. I can't. Let me see if I can. I was wondering if you could show me how you played it. But it's sort of like. Was that the way you fretted that?
Yeah, it's close.
Yeah. Oh, did you sweep it? Nice.
I think. It's funny, the way I play it now might be different than how I recorded it. But when I play it now, I do sweep it.
Sweep it? Gotcha. Very cool. Yep.
Yeah, it's like a mini sweep. So it's like the same type of thing we were talking about before, but just on those first three strings.
Yeah.
And then it goes to the diminished.
Diminished. Yep. Yeah, that's great. Excellent. Yeah, thank you. All right, let's see. The camera is kind of blocking it. That's all right. I can.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, Don Parker. I know that name.
He studied with you, right?
Yeah. A very good student. Hey, Don.
All right, so the question is, one question I would like to ask has to do with how to approach teaching students. When he was teaching, did he have a certain organized overall approach he prepared to teach students in general? Prepare a plan for each individual student? Or did he just basically have students come in and tell him what they wanted him to teach them that week? Or, what was your general overall approach?
That's a very interesting question. I think it definitely depended on the student. I couldn't plan the exact lesson for every player. It depends on their experience. I think every player has different strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
So, I would always, I try to gauge how each student is playing, the first lesson or two.
Nice.
And, that said, I do have I had and still have a pool of material to work on.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But usually, I'll throw these ideas out at them, and like maybe I'll have them play a blues, or we'll do some modal stuff, or we'll do some more groove-oriented stuff, and just try to see what is it they need work on.
They need work on, yeah. A lot of teaching is problem solving, right? And you're just trying to see what that student needs at the time.
Yeah, because it's not exactly the same for every student. Unless, if you're giving a master class, which I do sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm doing one for ESP
How do you
guitars.
how do you
in,
approach that?
next month.
How do you approach that then? Like if you're just teaching a general group of people.
Then basically you're all on your own.
Yeah.
Whatever your level is, and I just try to throw out some stuff, and I just talk about the process of learning and what things worked for me.
Gotcha.
And I tend to do this like crash course in music theory, which
okay.
sometimes helps.
Nice, cool. How do you
Which
start?
we could talk about.
Yeah, how do you start that off?
Okay, well, C major, right, is kind of, C major is like the mother of all keys. Those of us of a certain age, we remember the mother of all battles. C major is the mother of all keys, right? It's the white keys on the piano. And if you learn that on guitar, right, like, so if I play it up here. Right, well those, so each of those is a degree of the scale,
Right.
as well as a note. So each of those has a triad, right, a root, third, and fifth.
Yeah.
So if I play each triad, I get this.
Right, starting from each note. Yep.
Right, and
excellent. Yep.
people, they get used to that sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then if I play those as chords, as like open chords,
Yeah. Right. Yep.
right, and if I play it backwards, right, you get used to the sound,
Right.
and realize what's going to happen.
Yep.
So if I do that with the chords backwards,
Nice.
Right?
Yes. Cool.
and so everybody has heard songs that do that,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Right.
Right.
It is.
That's just
Yeah.
cycling through the chords. You know. Right.
Yep.
So that's a million songs. So then within that you have the modes. So I can take that first chord.
Dorian, right? Nice.
Yeah.
Phrygian.
And so on and so forth. So instead of worrying about, okay, here's a 2-octave Lydian scale and it connects to the F major kind of, that
Yeah.
drove me nuts. I didn't know what that was. But when I hear a familiar song, so you could play me, say, let's go to the 3, right? 1, 2, 3, right?
3.
1, 2, 3.
Yep.
Right, so if I go from 4 to 3, da 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 da. Right, so there's a song I know.
Right. Yep.
Na, 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 na. Okay, how am I going to solo over that? Well, I know it comes from this note.
Yep.
Right, I know that's the root. Here's the triad. Here's the mode. Right. I'm not thinking about the name of it. I'm not thinking about the fact that it's Phrygian. I'm not thinking about that it's an E. I'm not thinking about the fact that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just that sound.
Right. The 3. Yeah, the
There's
3
the
and
progression.
the 4.
There's the triad. There's the mode. Okay, so maybe that's not the best position to play that in, right? What if I play that up here?
Yeah.
Keep, next octave. Right, what if I remove this note and this note?
Yeah.
I get this.
Your minor pentatonic, right? Yep.
Which is the source of
Yeah. Yes.
all those
exactly.
great, you know what I mean? So
Cool.
it's hard to do it effectively within minutes.
Yeah,
but
no, that was very clear.
That's kind of the idea, though. I'll like to,
Yeah.
take a familiar song. Here's how it relates to the most. I think looking at music more from like why do you get in? You don't get into it because these notes on paper are so great.
Yeah, yeah.
You get into it because
Sounds.
it sounds good.
That's good. Yeah.
But eventually you learn to connect the notes to the to the sound.
Right. Gotcha. Makes sense. Yeah. Nice. Excellent, man. Cool. Let's take another question from the audience. All right. Let's see. Augustin Miguel. He asks, "How do you keep motivation or struggle in learning and feeling stuck?" Well, maybe
that's an interesting question.
Right. Yeah. Let's start there. So, how do you keep yourself motivated to learn new things, or to keep working through something that you're kind of stuck on?
Well, I try to remind myself that how far along I've come.
Right. Yes.
Right? Because even if I'm stuck on something now, there's something I'm playing well. Like, and it's just the case with all of us.
Yeah.
We are all playing something well now that we were not playing well
Right.
in the not too distant past.
Did you feel that way when you were a kid too, or how did you break through those hurdles when you were young?
I had to learn.
Yeah.
I think I had a lot of life experience, and just connecting to certain things I've read, or great interviews. I brought a couple things actually. I brought this book. This is completely falling apart. This is out of print, unfortunately, but it's called Jazz Rock Fusion, and I got this when I was I was pretty young. I guess I was right when I was getting into the jazz stuff.
Nice.
And this is interviews with these. If you don't know these names, I mean, these are names that you should know. But like John McLaughlin, Wayne Shorter, Miles Davis, Keith Jarrett.
Cool.
Okay, just in the guitar section, John Abercrombie, George Benson, Larry Coryell, Al Di Meola, Pat Martino,
Awesome.
Ralph Towner, Herbie Hancock. Anyway, those are just examples of interviews I would read, where they would be asked questions like that, and I would sort of take that in.
Cool, excellent.
But also, I was talking, just what I was just saying about remembering something you were stuck on before that you're not.
Right.
I think sometimes it helps to remember that. This is a kind of personal question. Have you lost your wallet before?
Oh yeah, of course.
Or your keys?
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
Where's your wallet now?
Yeah, it's in my pocket right here.
Right. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Do you remember how great you felt when you found your wallet?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So I try to remember things.
Right.
Oh my God, my wallet's here. Great! I'm so happy.
Nice. Yeah, that's great.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, I couldn't play this before. I'm playing this great now. So now, this new thing I'm working on, I have to stick with it because, I can't take it for granted.
Right. Excellent. Nice. All right, let's take a look at some of the other parts of the question.
What's the big picture vision for learning musician, for making a living with a band? And, oh my God, that's a really tough question.
Yeah.
Things are so different now.
Yeah.
I broke into, I guess you could call it breaking in. It's funny. I never felt like I had a big break either. It was always, year after year. I guess things progress. But still, there's this template of making it in the music business, right? Where you get signed by a record label, you do a tour, you follow this path that a lot of people. Things are now that the path is so different. Record labels don't really exist. There's this whole online environment now. Everybody's got to be on social media, including those of us who've been doing this a long time.
Right. Yeah.
We were talking about Al Di Meola. He's gotten hip to social media. He's got a great little Instagram page now. But we've all kind of had to adjust to that. And I think, and I'm sorry to say, the answer is there are no answers.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's different. It's different for everybody. But I do think as long as you're passionate about what you're doing and you're authentic, that should come through. Yeah. Not to talk politics, but there is an election next week, so there's a lot of talk about just authenticity, and the ones who are really sort of showing promise to win elections are ones who are being authentic. I think it's the same way in music.
In music, yeah.
Because in music, it's very easy to fall into the trap of sort of doing what you think you're supposed to, or playing like you think you're supposed to be playing.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas, if you really can't lose if you just focus on what you like to do.
Nice. Yeah. Great. Cool. Any more questions from the audience? Yeah.
There was
some more?
another one.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm having
Oh, that's okay.
Is that thing?
All right. Alex, can you please break down Signs of Chaos someday? I've been trying to learn it forever.
That's really not that hard.
No? Yeah?
I mean, the idea of it's not that hard.
Yeah.
All that's just an intro for an album we did in the early 90s called The Ritual.
Yeah.
Now, okay, again, this is the house guitar.
Yeah.
I play ESP, but
Yeah.
I'm going to use this to demonstrate it. We were just talking about this pattern.
Yeah. Pentatonic.
Right, pentatonic, E minor shape.
Yeah.
So, actually, that's a good segue into using the pentatonic, right? Because part of the problem when you learn these tools in music, whatever it is, triads, pentatonics, whatever, you tend to get stuck on them, and you can't think about a pentatonic without thinking, okay, top to bottom.
Right.
That's my shape.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Yes, but it's actually, and it's important to know that, but I think it's more important to know licks that use that, and you'll find they rarely follow the pattern up and down. So in this, what he's talking about, Signs of Chaos, I'm actually starting here, and then ascending from this note, the B.
Yep.
It's kind of hard to bend. I'm used to heavier strings.
Yeah, it's all good.
You get the idea.
Nice.
So I'm just up the scale, bend, pick, pull.
Nice.
It's very,
Yeah.
it's very bluesy.
Classic bluesy phrase, yeah.
Here, I do a modal note, a
okay.
major note,
There you go. Yep, major third there.
and I'm actually bending it
To the sharp four.
to the sharp four.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it becomes.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, cool.
So there, I'm just doing a half step then
Yeah,
to the flat nine.
Yeah. Nice.
And then I do it again.
Yeah. Cool. Big overbend there.
Overbend to here. Almost like the David Gilmour type.
Yeah. Nice. Cool.
And it happens much faster and with
Yeah.
lots of distortion.
Cool. Nice. Thank you.
Kind of over a drone.
Wow. Cool.
But that's fun. I haven't looked at that for a while.
Oh, awesome. All right. Yeah, I think we're gonna check out the Wheel of Fortune now.
Well, fortune.
So basically, I think there's some concepts in that whale there, and we're gonna draw one out of it, and
Right.
we'll see how.
Hi.
Hi.
How's it going? So I'm
you?
Unit. I'm the director
Hey,
of
Neat.
A&R here
Awesome.
in Lessonface, and I'm also a teacher. Hence, I'm going to bring the Wheel of Fortune, and it actually has to do with creating lessons, because that's what we do here in Lessonface. We create live lessons.
Nice.
So let's see. First of all, we're going to switch gears to our little corner, create a lesson.
Excellent.
Thank you so much. And we have the Wheel of Musical Fortune.
Oh
right
boy,
here.
I'm intrigued.
Yes, and we're actually gonna tackle you here. We're gonna surprise you with a few subjects that a lot of people would have lessons on. Pretty I guess, common subjects, and we kind of want to see what's your take. You know, maybe it's something that you always teach. Maybe it's something that because you're into, you know, some musical things at the moment. Everything can happen with the Wheel of Fortune. So please, you can get the whale
So I'm
away.
like Captain Ahab here.
Yes. Take the magical top off and then
Okay.
choose one subject.
We need a drum roll.
And teach us something. Lap rolls.
All right.
Woo! And that is
What do we have
the
here?
chosen subject.
Melody.
Melody.
Oh, okay, interesting. That's a pretty broad subject.
It is.
All
It
right.
is. Well, we can take it, I guess, for any, you know, any way you want it. It could be composing melodies, could be soloing. You know, melody exists in so many ways in music.
True.
How would you approach that?
Okay, I have a couple ideas.
Okay,
We
cool.
can
I'm
talk
gonna cap that whale.
Cap that down.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Melody. Okay, so, I mean, where to begin? I think it helps to just consider music that has a strong melody. And if you do that, you'll often find that there are certain parallels with very melodic music. Like let's just look at something right here. What did I do with my pick? Anybody have a pick?
Yeah, I got one here.
Oh, I've got one.
Yeah, that was very cute.
Okay. Okay, so are we okay to play existing songs? Is like clearance an issue? Okay. All right. Well, maybe just I'll keep it really short.
Okay, good.
Okay, so let's take a chord progression. It'll sound better in tune. I think that Signs of Chaos just like completely
yeah.
knocked it out of tune. Okay, so let's consider a melody for. Okay, so we'll stop. Why does that work? Let's look at the first note. What is that? That's a third. Right?
Yeah,
One,
major
two,
third.
three.
Yeah.
So the second note technically is a second. 1, 2. However, the chord has moved.
Yep.
So it's no longer a second, it is a fifth.
Right.
Right? Ba-da-do.
Right.
What are those? Those are root third. Ba-ba. Last note is a fifth. Pop quiz, what do all those notes have in common?
They're all part of the triads.
They're all triad notes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yep.
So these are the strong notes. Now you'll find that you can actually map out the triad for any progression. So if I do it for this progression, let's do it. I'll do it an octave lower.
Sure.
So root third fifth.
Yep.
Ba-da-da. ba, 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 ba. This is a very common progression, right?
Yes.
Right. Ba, da. So remember, it starts on the third. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. What if we started instead on the fifth? Ba, da, da. Well, you could actually stay there because da, 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 right? And that's the root of, sorry, that's the third of the next chord. So that could be a new melody. So if I'm soloing, I might think, okay, maybe I'll sneak in there.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm not only playing triad notes, but I think even if you analyze what I was just playing, like the notes I tend to hold tend to be triad notes.
Right. Notes in the chord.
Okay, and that applies to, so many songs and solos. Like if let's look at something completely different. The chorus in tune. Right?
Yeah.
You analyze that, it's yeah, so 5, 5, 5, down, 1, 5.
Yeah.
So root 5, 4, 3, 5, 5, 5, down, right?
Yeah.
So there's other notes snuck in, but the long dominant notes are always triads.
Notes in the chord. That brings out the melodic.
So yeah.
Yeah. Sounds
I
nice.
think if you so that's the key right there. So I think if you analyze any strong melody or strong solo, you'll find that same relationship.
Cool. Yeah, very nice. Killer. All right. Good. How are we doing on time?
That's
We're
great.
wrapping about it?
We're ready to
Yeah.
wrap whenever
Excellent.
you
All
guys
right.
are.
Alex, thank you so much,
cool.
man. That was excellent.
Oh, thank you.
Into your mindset.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you for
Thank you.
tuning in.